My special guest today is Steve Romig. Welcome, Steve. Who was Steve Romig before he discovered music?
Mum said that I used to sing on the potty from when I was a little baby. I was singing, so I sort of wanted to learn how to play guitar from the age of 4, but that didn't happen because no son of mine's going to play guitar, and so that didn't actually happen until I was about 15. I was able to get my first, get out and start playing the first instruments.
You really discovered songwriting and first, is that right? And developed your guitar playing from there.
I was heavily influenced by the Beatles. I was one of those guys. I was just an absolute Beatles tragic. Of course, I'd heard Masters Apprentices and all that sort of stuff too before. During that time, and I really loved a song called 5'10 Man that just got me. I remember hearing that in high school. But they were one of the main influences for me, because I actually believed that if they could write songs, so could I. I guess one of that sort of influenced me to get into music as well, because it was something that took me away from the realities of life, and reading as well did that too. I read. I think at one stage I was reading up to 6 books a week, and it was a brilliant thing. It was a great preparation for being a songwriter, because I got to know all the nuances of language, and I got to know the poetry of language, and how it was used efficiently, subconsciously. You read a lot and you glean that without having to actually study it. But once I discovered these new places and things, I just couldn't get my face out of a book.
So you started songwriting, around 14 or 15?
14, 15, yeah. I had a friend of mine called Wim Vink, and he had a guitar, and I used to go over to his place all the time. He and I we kind of looked like brothers, sort of the long curly hair, and we sort of walked down the street. I finally had a friend. That was amazing. And we would sit in his room and play. And then there are other times we'd just lie on the bedroom floor and listen to music. I mean, that just doesn't happen anymore, does it?
Doesn't.
That was one of the things I loved about being with Jim. Just before, 2 weeks before he died, I went to his place.
We were talking about Jim Keys.
Jim Keys, yeah. And I went to his place, and I had my new album, Shifty Fingers, played here, and he had the album that he was working on. And I said, I'd really love you to hear my album. So we sat there, and Jim sat there like this through the whole thing. Occasionally, in between songs, he'd go, that's a complicated arrangement. And then we'd keep listening. And then he said, I'll put on mine. So it hadn't been mixed yet properly. So he put his on. So we were basically in the same room for 2 hours, and we didn't say a word, because it was that thing when Jim had total respect for what you did, and he basically would not speak while it was on. Most people, that you play a song and 15 seconds in, they go, oh, rah, rah, blah, and they start talking. And But that's what you did when we were younger. You probably did it yourself.
I certainly did.
An album would come out, you get your mates around, you put it on the turntable, and you listen to it and listen to the second side, and then go, oh man, let's listen to that again. And it was, it was something that I think a lot of people miss out on.
You have a long songwriting relationship with Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Tell us about Frank.
Well, Frank and I first met when he was working at Fretted Instruments. We used to call it Farted Implements. And in Box Hill, and I used to go in there and we'd hang out, and I was always checking out gear that I couldn't afford to buy, and he was great. And then a couple of years later, there was this guy who wanted me to record this song, and Frank was doing the demo of it. He hadn't heard me sing before, and he said, I really like your voice. And I said while I was there, I said, look, I'd just broken up with this girl, and I'd written this verse and a bridge of a song And I said, I've got this verse and this bridge, and I played it to him. He said, man, I really like it. I said, maybe we should get together and work on it, because I cannot come up with a chorus. But I went in and I remember I had lunch with the girl in question, and she'd just she'd gotten together with my best friend, you know, usual scenario. And I said, well, you know, that's great as long as you're happy and everything. She said, you know, not too happy. And I said, you know, I'd take you back just like that. She's gone away. Deep in the night I cry for love that I thought was mine. You know, and it was very minor things. He said, oh, it's easy, we just take it to the major. You know, when you're in the process, you don't realise how good something is until you get to the very end of it. And we'd done it, and we demoed it, and we listened to it, and we looked at each other and went, oh, yeah. I remember one of them, there was a song called Tender Moments, and it was doing this this chorus that was really kind of twee, you know, I'm in love with you. You know, I'm in love and all that. So I said, that's great. That's a really, let's make it earthy. So I wouldn't want you to hold me tighter. I was right, but maybe you were righter. I love the fact that you're a fighter, and you just don't lay down and die. You know, make it that kind of thing. We put that together, and it was that moment we went, oh man, listen to that. And I said, yeah, it's just this great creative partnership that Frank and I had.
Well, one or two of your songs ended up on a John Farnham album.
Oh yeah. Well, Take You Back, which was the first song that Frank and I ever wrote together, ended up on the Anthology 3 album. John got up and performed it on Hey Hey It's Saturday.
Yeah.
And
I was watching it on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, the very next day that album sold 79,000 copies.
Wow.
You know. And I happened to know somebody who was a record store owner, and he rang me up and he said, man, I've had 25 people come in today saying, is that John's next single, you know? And they were buying the album because of that song, which, you know, you get pretty chuffed about stuff like that. The project that I'm particularly passionate about right now is the Come My Children project. So that's something that's taken nearly 3 years to get together, and that started out with, as we were talking about, Playing for Change, where I saw that, you know, you see that guy playing Stand By Me on a street corner, and then there's a guy in Memphis, and then they're down in Mexico, and then they're over in Africa, and, you know, they just sort of went to all these places and had all these different musicians playing on it. I had a rock song that I was writing, and the melody didn't work as a rock song, so I slowed it down for some reason, and then this song just went bang. It came out of me like I started writing it, and probably less than 10 minutes later, there it was. When I got the idea for this 3 years ago, I thought, yeah, this is a good idea. This could be a really good way to do it.
It's the right song.
Yeah. So the first person I called was Russell, you know, and I said, Russell, would you like to sing on it? I sent him the original demo, which was done with me and Adrian Scott. So I got Russell in, and we got Mike Brady in, and we got into a place in at Willie Beach, and you know, this old nautical kind of warehouse, and did that, and then we got to various other places, and I've forgotten the order we did it in, but just took the old demo and worked out how exactly it turned out. It was 87.5 beats per minute, and put that down on, and just everybody sang over the top of that.
In the video, I noticed, apart from some of our heritage artists in there, and Adrian, of course, There is Mike Brady's in there. You've got the Australian Women's Choir in there.
Mike Rudd.
Mike Rudd's in there.
Yeah, he was great. There was this just the end of the second chorus. He held this note, and you've seen it, and that look he gets on his face, like, you know, that. And he said, that look that says, "Yeah, I did it." So I left that in there. That was just priceless.
Yeah. So you've put this project together to create an awareness.
Yeah.
So you want to tell us about that?
Well, I think a lot of people look at the environmental issues that we're facing, and they leave it all up to governments. But the message that I have in the song is that we can all do our part to make a difference. We can all change. We can all reduce our carbon footprint by little things. And by little things, I mean things like more economical cars, move towards putting solar panels on the house and stuff. I mean, that's becoming the thing I'm finding too is with those things, they're becoming more affordable.
Look up Come My Children on YouTube, watch the videos, support the cause. It's a great effort, Steve. You should be proud of it, mate. Yeah. So tell us about Mama Blue and Son.
Well, Mum was she was doing demos, and one year I said, "Mum, I'm not going to buy you a Christmas present. I'm going to record an album with you." So we came across the idea. We came to the idea of doing a jazz blues album. I got two of my kids in, Jess and Josh, did some backing vocals as well. I wrote a couple of songs for the album. One was Look at My Baby Dance, and the other one was what was it? I've forgotten the name of it. But it was a long time ago. So I got all the backing tracks down. It took me about 4 or 5 days of concerted effort.
That's not too bad.
Getting it all down, and basically got Mum in and said, "Okay, there they are. Do your vocals," and she did her vocals in about 2 hours.
Wow. How old was your mum when you did the album?
76.
Yeah, it was only a few years ago.
It was only a few years ago. Yeah, she's 80 now. Yeah. I just did it just for something to do.
Yeah. And mind you, it's a magnificent album. It
did pretty well. Yeah. I mean, we didn't sell a whole lot, but it got a lot of critical acclaim.
So let's talk a little bit about your guitar style.
I was talking to a guy about it once. He said, "How come you know so many chords?" And I explained it to him. I said, "Look, what I did was I started writing songs, and I would hear chords in my head, and then I'd work out what they were on the guitar. And a few years later, I actually got some lessons on chord theory, and finger picking too was one of the things that back in my day, you know." All that hammer and claw stuff, you know.
And of course, James Taylor's unique style. Were there other guitarists and albums that were influential?
Of course, anything the Beatles brought out was going to influence me and my songwriting. I discovered the diminished chord through looking at the Beatles stuff, and I thought, wow, what an amazing sounding chord, you know. I've been writing blues-based songs for a while, you know, and people listen along quietly, and then I'll put in a diminished or augmenting, and the augmented and the blues purists go, "Oh God, what'd you put that in there for?"
I find guitars are like people; they have a personality, and you get on instantly with some of them. Some guitars become almost like a best friend, don't they? I mean, I can see that in this guitar with you, and you have a connection with it.
Yeah, I do. It's every now and then I'll look at it, and I'll look at the marks on it, and all the memories will start flooding back, and the things that we've been through together, and the times that we've spent together, and the gigs we've played together, the hard times, and it's been there, solid as a rock, it was decades before I eventually retired it. You know, I don't use this guitar anymore. I use a Variax when I'm playing live.
Yeah. Well, for those people who don't know what a Variax guitar is, just give us a quick.
The Variax is a guitar that's all things to all people. It's any guitar that you want at any time and any tuning you want, because it's got modelling technology built into it.
So to change tuning, you don't need to
just turn a knob. Yeah, and it changes in the computer inside the guitar. And I took it with me to the US when I went over there, thinking that everybody'd have one of these things. I mean, it's just common sense. Nobody had heard of them, you know. So I'm going to these places doing open mic nights with this guitar, and you've got these American dudes sitting there with their, you know, they've got their Martins and their Gibsons and all that sort of stuff, their pride and joy, and they've played their gig, and they've come up to me afterwards and said, "Oh man, love your stuff. That guitar." I said, "Yeah." It sounded like a Martin. It sounded like an actual Martin. And I said, "Yeah, it did, didn't it?" You know, and then you were changing tunings. How the hell did you do that? It's just a really practical sort of instrument, you know.
Let's talk about Way Down Homeless Blues, one of your songs.
Yeah.
How it ended up inspiring a #1 album in Australia and winning an ARIA award for one of our greatest artists.
Yeah, I had a bunch of songs that I'd written when I was in Japan, and one of the first one we started working on was Way Down Homeless Blues, because that was another one of those songs where I started writing it, and 5 minutes later it was there. It was all there. I'm on my way back. I'm way down, way down. I can't seem to shake these blues. Oh my Lord, what can I do? I'm way down, way down. Lord on my soul. Oh my Lord, please let it roll from me. I'm way down, way down. Don't have a job. Don't have no money, no. My life used to be so sweet. Now I'm in rags. My toes are frozen. I'm living out on the streets. Oh Lord, let me fly to the bosom of Abraham. I'm way down, way down. And so on. So Jim took Way Down Homeless Blues to Russell and said, "Have a listen to this." And Russell said, "Wow, man, there's some guy from the States." I said, "No, it's Steve Romig." And he said, "You're kidding me." And from there, he got the idea of, because he always wanted to make a blues album, but he was a pop artist, you know, and he didn't want to just do, you know, the standard sort of blues stuff. So now the cool thing was he took it further, and being an avid student of Australian history and the characters involved, he said, "Well, that's our blues music," and he wrote songs based on that, and
on our own characters.
On our own characters.
I mean, it was a bold move, wasn't it? I mean,
it was
for an established artist in a you know, locked into a genre.
Yeah.
To really go skew with and
it was
a blues album.
It was great, but it was the best thing he could have done, you know.
Well, it became a #1 album.
Yeah.
And won him an ARIA award.
Won him an ARIA.
Thanks to you.
Well, I think, you know, I take a little bit of credit for maybe influencing him in that area, but that's great. And look, he will tell you that too.
Yeah.
He was basically I was at the blues festival once where he was playing, and he knew I was out there, and he thanked me from the stage.
Yeah. But that's a great story.
Yeah, I like it.
It would be remiss of me if I didn't briefly bring up one of my really good friends and a guy that has done a lot of work for us at Intracks. It's Damien Smith.
Oh, Damien, yeah. The latest album, which is Shifty Fingers, played here. He played all the keyboard parts. So put a thing out on Melband, Steve Romig looking for a band, and a guy called Jamie Wayers gave me a call. I was in Tasmania at the time, and said, yeah, we want to do it. I said, oh, cool. And they were talking about getting Jeff Zambellis in, and I couldn't get Jeff, but he said, we've got this other guy that'll come in on keyboards, and you can do the guitar and stuff. And I said, well, I'm not really a lead guitarist, and I'm not. I never claimed to be anything like that. And we had our first rehearsal, and I gave them 4 numbers to learn, and they nailed them so well that it was kind of embarrassing that I didn't know them as well as they did. And Damien was just all over it. He was just amazing. Yeah, and he did an amazing solo on a song called I Always Will. Just sitting back there, sitting in the beanbag and watching Damien do his thing and then fall off to sleep and then come back. The beanbag was dangerous.
So tell me about your current projects. You're putting together a country band, I believe.
Yeah. I'm the guy. Well, Fred Spiteri down in Tasmania. He's always been on to me about coming down and doing a country band because country is really big down there. He's talking about modern country, like country rock, Brad Paisley,
Nashville style.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff in there.
So you're going to do the whole outfit? I think you were saying.
Oh man, yeah.
You're going to go to full
white suit. I'm talking to May Parker. Her husband Art can replace the collars and cuffs and all that, and get the white hat with all that, and with sunglasses and just the whole deal. Just
man, I got to see this.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. I've gotten over the idea of making money out of music. I just want to make a difference, and I think that sort of reminds you, most songwriters don't get into it for the money. They get into it to make a difference. Where I remember singing sometimes, I was busking, and there was this old American gentleman who used to come and listen to me sing, and I just finished singing sometimes, and I looked over, and he was a mess. He was bawling his eyes out. I thought, oh no, what's happened? Is he lost somebody, or is So I went up to him and I said, what's the matter? And he said, that song. He said, that song just touched me, and I couldn't help myself. That's what you do it for.
Well, Steve, we probably need to wrap it up, I think, and I'm really enjoying this. The time will get the better of us.
Yes, it will.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today.
Yeah, thank you, Jackson. It's been good talking to you too.
Thanks, mate. And we're going to do a few songs on live at Jack's Place, I believe.
Yeah.
Coming up soon.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Steve Romig.
Thank you, Jackson.
See you soon.
See ya.
Well done, mate. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's amazing. That was great stories.
I warned you. You get me started.
Yeah.
The biggest regret of my life is that I started playing guitar. Coffee here is excellent, by the way. I could have been a world famous kazoo player by now.
That's it. We got it.